like these natural intros into the
I do
conversation.
too. I do too.
Good.
Me too. Well, let me do the slightly wooden intro that Connor hates. Welcome to Resident Skeptics. This is our See, look, she's feeling it, Connor. She feels it. Welcome to Resident Skeptics. We are not in the studio. We're in our virtual studio today. And we're honestly, I say this about each of our guests, but each of them are special because they all bring something different to the table. In this case, we have Christina Werner. Did I say your last name right?
Yes, you did.
Yay! She is the VP of Partnerships at PublicSq. And if you haven't heard of PublicSq, well, you should, because it's kind of taking off. I remember when I first heard about it, and it was super small, and I was excited about it, but I went to go look up my area, and there was nothing. But now it's exploded, and it's everywhere, and there's a lot of great things happening. So, Christina, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today about PublicSq.
Absolutely. It's an honor to be here. You guys are really fun. So love to get to hang out and talk with you.
Oh, thanks.
It's like, oh, this is the best compliment we've ever received. Okay, so
let's
go ahead. Let's go ahead and just jump right in and just tell us, what is PublicSq? Why is it there? What does it do? What is it?
Sure. Okay. Well, I like that you kind of started with the why. And so since this is so big right now in culture and what's going on, it is pretty apparent that corporate America is actively working to destroy the values that the majority of Americans hold dear, right? The values that have made our country so special. And it started, vaccine mandates and cancel culture and censoring speech and indoctrination and social justice movements. And, lately all this stuff about paying for employees to go out of state to get abortions. But the really, really sad thing is, what did the majority of tens of millions of Americans continue to do? We keep giving them our money. Mm-hmm. Right. And so this is where PublicSq comes into it. And it's not always because somebody really wants to. It's just like, well, what's my alternative? Right. So we're kind of here to say, if a business does not respect you and your God-given freedoms, it is time you take your money elsewhere. And to take it a step further, a lot of these businesses are actively donating to causes that you and I would never put our hard-earned money towards. So PublicSq, it's an app and a website designed to connect you locally to your like-minded community and like-minded businesses. That's where it really started out. As an app and a platform, you can go to PublicSq.com. And then from there, it kind of grew to even those local businesses and family-run businesses also have an online portion. So let's say, Jordan, you're in your area and you're, gosh, there's not a lot here. Well, one, it's up to the people in their local area to build this. But number two, if there's not a lot in your area, that's why we also added the online portion, because again, Amazon is one of those organizations that decided to ship their employees out of state to go get abortions. And we have a fun story of actually a pregnancy center on our app, and her insanely bold stance. She was getting all of her supplies from Amazon wish list and Amazon Smile, and she canceled it. And every time a supporter for her pregnancy center would come in, they'd say, oh, well, where's your wish list? Where's your Smile list? I'd love to donate. And she goes, stop. This is literally our opposition. They're literally killing the babies of their employees, yet we're using them to get our supplies. Like, I don't think so. So when we got to tell her that PublicSq exists, she was like over the moon. Like, there's going to be another alternative. We're like, yes, it's growing. In 9 weeks nationwide, we have over 26,000 businesses on the app that have all adhered to our core values. So pretty awesome.
Yeah.
There's a ton of people signing up really quick there.
Yeah, give us some grace. If you sign your business, it is free for businesses to be on. It is free for the consumer to use. Our sole purpose is really to connect you with those like-minded businesses. And there's actually been a lot more B2B connection too than I personally anticipated happening, but that's been really fun to see, where you see, a company in Iowa now reach out to a distributor in Montana, and now they're using their services, or a local contractor who found a fence contractor and a granite company and a roofer that's all aligned in their values. And, one, you're hiring somebody that in general, if you share more similar values and you love America, and I can go through our 7 core values later, but that you would actually enjoy working with these people. What a concept. And your money's not going to BLM or Planned Parenthood in the meantime. That's phenomenal.
Yeah. I think that the reason why I think that this is so good is that there's been, I feel like, at least a push for at least a couple of years to be like, well, don't shop at these other places, shop with people that have your values. Well, I'm all for it. Listen, I'm all there. That's why we're having you guys on. That's why I have the app myself. I was like, but where do I find these people?
Yeah.
Like, I do Google search, and Google doesn't help you. You put the words conservative in, and I think one time I just found like the most conservative bathing suits I've ever seen in my life. And so it's just like, this is just not helpful. And so you've almost kind of filled a gap that was there, where I get like excited about like shopping, which I probably shouldn't. It's not good for my wallet, but like I found like I love cosmetics, and so I was so excited. There's one night I spent like an hour like scrolling the different cosmetics. So it's really cool that you guys are filling this hole. So let me ask how it kind of started. Like, what was the idea here? When did it happen? Do you know?
Yeah, I do actually. So our founder and CEO, Michael Seifert, I've known him a long time, just really value the integrity of who he is as a person, and him and his wife. And so for me, getting to be a part of this from the start and knowing him, like I just know the core of how this organization has been built, and just the integrity that goes behind it. But long time ago, he was going past a Chick-fil-A at like 11 o'clock in the morning. It wasn't breakfast, it's not lunch, and there's a 2-hour long line out at Chick-fil-A. And so, he kind of goes, gosh, this is just one of many reasons this started. But he saw that and decided to pull over and look up, like, why is Chick-fil-A so busy right now? Well, it was the boycott Chick-fil-A day. And there was maybe 4 protesters there. But guess who showed up? All of us, all the people that wanted to go support Chick-fil-A on this national boycott Chick-fil-A day, just like Goya, when the president came out when they said that they, voted for Trump, and then Alexandria Cortez says, boycott Goya foods. Well, guess what? That ended up being their highest grossing revenue month of all time, so much as they named her their employee of the month. So it was this concept of like, gosh, we really are right now kind of more of a silent majority, but we are the majority. People that hold the traditional Judeo-Christian conservative values, like we are America. This is the traditional America. And so we come out to support our people. We just need to know who our people are, right? So that was one concept. And then also just realizing that in general, people like us tend to feel alone. You really feel like you're the only one. I'm the only one in my neighborhood. I'm the only one in my city. But you're not. So I remember Michael doing some of this research going, gosh, there's actually 2,000 other people that voted just like me, in this radius of my home. And I know maybe 10 of them. So how can we do something to actually impact our city and impact locally for people to realize, like, I'm not the only one. So it is really fun to see this come to fruition and see this map, and see these businesses and see people. There's a community feature on PublicSq as well, where you can, chat. We had one lady contact us and say early on in the stages of PublicSq, like, I feel like I have 6,000 of my new best friends now. Like, I've got people I can talk to, and I am super social,
so sweet.
But not everybody has that, so it is fun to see their strength in numbers. We really are that majority that I don't feel like we're going to be too silent for that long, especially when you link arms together. Like when you're in a room with just one other person that maybe shares a value of yours, in general, people tend to be a little more bold about what they're going to say, right? Yeah. So yeah, those were the 2 concepts that kind of came about to say, hey, how do we do this on a digital platform? And just the fascination with the local public square. Like, what is a public square supposed to be, where you come and communicate with your local community and really decide what's best for your community. So that's how we just did it on a a platform base, on an app base, so that this can be thriving local communities, but nationwide, all over the country. So that's the goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I'm curious, how did you get roped into it and to the project start? Because it sounds like you've been with PublicSq since basically the beginning, right? Or have you at least known of it since it's
yeah,
been?
No, I definitely have. And it's funny, I just got out of a marketing meeting where I was asked to give my why. And I don't know if it was embarrassing or not, but Michael walks in right as I'm about to give my why. And it truly was because of knowing who is starting this from the beginning, and knowing and like was I saying before, but the integrity of the people, starting this. Because I could meet some like-minded people that maybe had all the money in the world, but if I didn't know that I knew that I know that they, weren't going to slip when they, were offered $100 million from Coca-Cola just to shut up, or $100 million maybe to take the pro-life part off of what PublicSq stands for, or, even quit, then to shift my whole job, my life, my family, for us to all put our energy onto this, like that, that's a pretty risky thing. But I just, knowing Michael Seifert and his wife, we worked at a Christian camp called JH Ranch years ago together. And so I really just got to see him and the way he led, and also the way he served people and served other people's visions. So it's nice to work with people that you truly trust, have your back, and the integrity of their heart, like inside and out. Like, he's not going to quit. He's not going to be one of the, I'm sure we've all seen this, like plenty of pastors and leaders over the past few years who just took this little slippery slope of like, well, I'm compromising this one area. And now, like, I personally don't have tons of respect for a lot of people that I thought I did. I'm going, wait a minute. Like, what kind of stance are you taking? So that was part of my start with this, is just knowing Michael from the beginning, and truly feeling like it's just an honor to get to be a part of this. Yeah, I'm 100% like-minded. Yes, I'm still the mom that has the three like big banners in my trunk that I would be doing at every school board, that I would be out at every rally anyway, whether I was a part of PublicSq or not. But, what an honor to get to be a part of this, and know that it's going to succeed, and that we're going to keep pushing through no matter how difficult it gets. So.
Now, how about your position at PublicSq? What is it that you do specifically?
Oh, yeah. So I'm finally in my lane. It's fabulous. So being here from the itty bitty beginnings, there's just a few of us, and it was kind of like setting up admin, and then HR, and then sales, and then all this fun stuff behind screens. And it's just me in tech. It's probably an ironic thing that I'm working in technology, because, I'd hand my phone over to my husband and be like, help me with my notifications. But people, Jesus, yes, you got it. So it's fun to now kind of be in my lane of getting to work with people and the relationships. So in partnerships, going to different events, doing podcasts, things like this, talking to different groups, advocacy groups. If they want to learn about what PublicSq is, happy to come and either share with them in person or do it over a Zoom call like this. But anything in the people area it's my favorite. I love people. So
you seem like a people.
It's a fun job.
All around.
Yeah, how you can stick someone in a room of strangers and someone's like, oh, I'm like, yay! I get to meet a bunch of new people. So, yeah, I've been told a few times by people randomly. They're like, hey, you're in your right lane. I'm like, thanks. All right.
Yeah, it's cool that you found a job, or I guess I know it's a job, but you found a passion, I would say, more accurately, that just fits your personality so well. And I think I don't know, I guess as you were describing the CEO, I was just like, that's so different than, I guess, the type of leadership that I typically see. They're almost like an untouchable character, if that makes sense. Like, you can't touch them. They're above you. And I think he said something that was interesting, which is like, he serves.
Totally.
He serves other people. And I just think with that's so revolutionary in today's day, where we are so self-absorbed and we are so focused on ourselves and our self-identity, our sexual identity, that we just can't see past ourselves. And that's a really good quality to have in a leader. And it looks like it's something that that bleeds into your entire business that he has.
Oh, for sure. Our staff is phenomenal. It's that you kind of want to poke them and be like, "Are you real?" Because you're just so amazing, and full of joy. And we really do things with excellence. And everybody here has that core value of we don't just want to be, a company that's doing it, but we want to do it well and we want to do it right, and with integrity and joy and excellence. And so it's a pretty phenomenal thing, and something just to, I guess, be reminded about, to have gratitude over the fact that we work with so many amazing people that are like-minded, 100% sold out for what we're doing. So yeah, it's phenomenal.
Which doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. I think when it comes to work environment, it should be something where you should be able to have different beliefs from someone else. Like, I'm honestly, and this is where I stand, and Connor, you'd have to actually tell me, because this is an interesting conversation, where I used to not really care whether or not my company was conservative or liberal or moderate. Like, I didn't care. I was like, just, give me the dang Oreo. That's really what I want. And then they made it political, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I didn't want my Oreo to be political, but now you've made it political. And so now I'm like, well, now I have to go after those like-minded people. But I guess I just wanted to hear your thoughts on that. Like, was there just ever a point where you're like, wait a minute, when did my company get political? Like, when did my just normal household items at the store get political? Like, has anyone else ever had that thought?
I can't say that I have, mainly because any of the larger companies that I worked for was pre-political era, I feel like, where companies really got involved and started making their stances known to everybody. And when that time frame happened, I was probably working small businesses that did not care. And to be fair, even the most liberal of them were probably on the conservative side of things, because they're business owners, and they're the exact type of people that would be on PublicSq. The company that I work for now is a national company, and they're definitely on the liberal side of things, more so based in California. So I deal a little bit more with it now, but I don't feel like our mission to help people is tarnished by the fact that, maybe a lot of the people I work with don't have the same beliefs. Luckily, they haven't made their statements overtly political, even though they are in the realm to do so on quite a few issues.
Well, and there's also something to be said about where you're called to be. I worked in the public school system for quite a while. I subbed in the school system. I had my kids there because I was heavily involved. And so I knew their teachers. I knew where they were. I knew what was going on. And I truly felt like I got to be more of a light in a dark place, and actually shelter some kids from maybe some crazy stuff that they would have seen otherwise if I wasn't there. So also, like, knowing where God's called you to be, or like where you're supposed to be in a season. When people say, oh, well, the public school system, to be honest, if like what I saw there and what we got to be a benefit to and help was phenomenal, so it's awesome to work with a bunch of like-minded people, but you might be in a season like where you're called to be somewhere else, because if you take all the light out of a dark place, is that, like, that's not necessarily.
No, that's correct. Yeah.
Right. And to your point about like the businesses, I think one of the coolest things too with the PublicSq businesses, just because they're on the app doesn't mean they take this overtly big political stance, kind of like what you're saying to the Oreos.
Right.
Like one of our first coffee shops, Invita Coffee Shop, it is a high-end, really nice Italian coffee shop. Phenomenal. There's no guns, no eagles, no flags at the door. Maybe she has an American flag, but it's not that like she was going, I've got to take this stance for America. She is a second generation immigrant from Italy. She loves her country. She chose to stay open as a young business owner during the pandemic because this is how she makes her money, and got flack for it. But I personally know that she was donating her time twice a week to a pregnancy resource center. That's not public knowledge. You know what I mean? And so she's just a high-end coffee shop on our app she's a phenomenal business owner. But I can tell you, there are people that come far and wide that would rather spend an extra $3, that would rather drive an extra 5 miles to go support her than Starbucks. Even though she's not necessarily taking some crazy political stance. When you go into her shop, it just looks like a nice coffee shop. So whatever political stance, you could walk in there and you're like, this is great coffee.
That's how it should be, though.
Yes, that's America.
How it should
that's how
be.
America should be,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So it is nice to have the businesses like that too. It's not that everyone has to go around taking some crazy big stance, but we just know as PublicSq consumers, we're supporting someone that's a phenomenal business in America.
Yeah, it's just about, okay, is the product good, and are the people running it gonna, accept anyone of any political viewpoint? Like, I'm sure that coffee shop would be happy to serve anyone.
Absolutely.
That's kind of the way it should be. And when you have like these woke corporations being like, well, if you stand for this, we don't want you, or even I remember the singer when Roe v. Wade got overturned, named Halsey. She said at a concert that, if you're pro-life, get out of here. I don't want. And it was just so insane. Where like I don't like all her songs. There's a couple that I think are pretty good, but she could very well have pro-life fans that just enjoy her music.
Yeah.
But because you've alienated them and said, well, if you don't agree with me, then you're just the worst. Then it's like, well, you've just alienated part of your audience. And now they don't want to listen to your music anymore because they know that that you hate them, and that's horrible.
Oh yeah. There's been a lot of companies that have done this. They've gone, in my opinion, like they're shooting themselves in the foot. I'm like, making my job easy pretty soon,
right?
Because they've gone so far in their just gnarly stuff, like Disney and then the Little Mermaid thing, and I mean these are older ones like Nike lobbying for slave labor in China, Seventh Generation,
right.
or just household cleaning company committing to defund the police. I mean, there's tons of them. Like, why? I actually liked Seventh Generation until they did this great cleaning product. I'm like, I'm not really all for my money though, defunding police. But they're all choosing to go a little far. But the good thing is we're committed to building and providing this alternative economy that's focused on advancing those businesses and the people, and I mean nonprofits and schools and churches, not just small businesses, but that love America. So you're right. Alternative economy, here it comes.
Yeah, that was actually one of the questions I wanted to ask about. So I'm still holding on to it. So Jordan, if you want to go ahead, just so you don't lose your thought.
I might have just lost it the moment you said something. Oh, okay. Here's my question. I remember now. So do you feel like the reason, actually, I'm not gonna, that was gonna be a leading question. Let me ask you this. Why do you think the left these woke corporations have made these drastic stances? Just your opinion. Why do you think they're doing that?
I think it started off a little bit with this, the social justice movement and this thing placating to this small, loud voice, right? Like in the month of June, I'm going to, do this rainbow, whatever it is. I have gay friends that can't stand that. They're like, okay, so just in the month of June, you're going to put up this flag. Is it in Saudi Arabia? Are you doing the same thing there? Or are you doing this to make this financial move, right?
Just not in Saudi Arabia, actually.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I think it's a financial thing, but I think it was a really grave mistake that these companies are making. They're just, thinking, oh, look, we're being so kind. We're doing the right thing to this loud liberal voice. But in the end, I think they're going to realize, shoot, the average American, the majority of America really still does have these traditional American values, and they're not really for all my virtue signaling and indoctrination and censoring. And I don't know why they're doing it now, because it's getting beyond crazy. You hear something, you're like, no, for reals? They just said what?
Yeah. Well, it's like they misjudged their audience.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like that's part of what happened, where they're like, wait, people really want this, and they kind of took the super loud people and like, wow, these loud people must totally represent the entire population. And it's like, no, even people that are pro-abortion, they're not all pro-abortion up to 9 months. You know,
Right.
they're actually a bit more moderate on it than the left would assume. But I was just curious about what your thoughts were on that, because what you said was correct. Like, they're shooting themselves in the foot if they keep doing this, and they won't stop. And it's because they have to appease the left, because the left is bullying them and telling them they're going to do all this stuff. It's like it's a horrible hostage situation. But yeah, I think what you said was absolutely correct. Connor, what was? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, well, something else I learned. We were just at Family Research Council did an event, and Michael Seifert was a part of a panel talking about the woke corporations. And interestingly enough, learned from a gentleman that was speaking up there, and he kind of brought light to something I had never thought of, but was saying that these corporations in general, some of these large corporations don't necessarily want to take this stance, but it's their majority of the shareholders that actually show up to these meetings are the loud liberal people. And so, right, they're okay, well, this is what, our shareholders are wanting. And one time, CFO of an organization stopped the gentleman that was speaking and said, "Hey, thank you for showing up." And he goes, "Well, why?" He goes, "You are the first conservative person that's ever come to one of our meetings." So that just tells you we've been asleep. That there's these that small, loud voice that's making a ruckus, but we're over here sleeping, thinking everything's okay, when really we need to make our voices heard too. We need to show up to those corporate meetings. Like, if you own any stock in whatever company, you have a voice and you're allowed to say something. But we just, in general, we haven't.
Yeah, I would agree with that for sure.
For sure. Back to, you said alternative economy. I've been more used to the phrase of parallel economy. I think PublicSq might be the first real answer economic wise. We've seen it happen with social media as soon as we had all the divergent ones like Trump's Truth Social and what are all the other ones that are out there?
Parler
Is
one of them.
There's another alternative, Gab or something like that, and Rumble for YouTube, like all these alternative social media. So we have the conservative voices and liberal voices splitting on, basically platforms for your freedom of speech across the country. And I think I want to say PublicSq is probably the very first one in the market to really be pushing a parallel economy as far as places to go and spend your money. How do people at PublicSq feel about that?
I mean, phenomenal. I think sometimes what we hear when we're traveling at different events, people go, "Gosh, this was such a great idea. Like, I can't believe this hasn't been done yet." And we hear that a lot. And it has been done in the sense that there's some people who've put out national lists, hey, this is a national list of whatever it might be, Christian companies or like Mammoth Nation or Second Vote, there's some things that are out there where you can just go search nationally a bunch of organizations. But I think what we did very differently is focus on local. Yeah, we do have that tab that eventually is gonna, compete with Amazon, and you'll be able to shop within the app and all that stuff too. But it's still focusing on those hyper local businesses. They're not, huge corporations. And our thought really was, if you want to affect change, as beautiful as the presidential election sounds, what was keeping my kids masked up? It wasn't the president, right? All politics start local. Yeah. So in order to change your state, you got to go back and look at your county. Before that, your city. Before that, your backyard. So starting local with your local community, how do you actually affect change? And go support those local businesses. That's how we change this country, but start hyper local. So it really is cool to be a part of something that's the first that this has been done. And to be honest, it's taken off a lot faster than we thought. This is like a building the airplane while it's in the air kind of thing. The technology would take years to build if we wanted just to give you this perfect product done. But we've had people say to us, I don't care. I just want it how it is now. Keep going, you know, and every week we have new updates and it just gets better and better and better. But it was pretty fun to have an MVP product, a minimal viable product that we tried out in San Diego for 4 months and said, does this work? Do people want to shop differently? Will they support better businesses? Are they going to drive the extra mile? Be a little uncomfortable. Sometimes, like, you know, to do something different and change, it takes you out of your comfort zone because it's not just the drive through Starbucks anymore or whatever. But we saw that it worked and people want this, want it more than actually I was anticipating. So it's definitely grown fast. And yeah, it's given me a lot of hope. You know, there's a season of a lot of fear and people need to see hope. People need to see courage right now. And we have a bunch of courageous activist organizations, businesses, groups, churches, nonprofits on this app that have chosen to take a beautiful stance. So it's really fun to be the platform that they've chosen to be on.
Yeah, I know I, for one, am looking to ditch Amazon probably in the near future. Just, I love their shipping times. I love the amount of products they have, but hearing the stories of how they're treating their employees, their delivery drivers and stuff is just, it's pretty horrific. And it's kind of what they tend to just step on the heads of people to get their work done.
Oh, and not to mention, I was speaking with a guy who was one of the first 200, I guess, like shoe companies, does like in the surf industry on Amazon, an older gentleman. And he goes, oh yeah, years ago, my product would go up. Amazon would look at the analytics. When I had something that was selling really well, they would take that same product, go make it in China, put it back on Amazon, but underneath my listing, you know, oh, go look on Amazon. This is totally happening. Oh, here, you can have a similar product, but it's for, you know, half the price. So they're literally just taking, when you have a good product and it's going well, they're looking at what you're doing and then they're recreating it, making it in China and then bring it back here. So that is literally what we're supporting when we're supporting Amazon. And I'm not saying it's easy just to stop that stuff, but that's what's happening.
It doesn't even have to be Amazon itself. It could be other people using Amazon. I know I could get on there, look at products, and I can go find them on Alibaba and AliExpress, and I could set up my own account and ship that stuff. And that's kind of, I told Jordan about this. I had a really like weird feeling about Amazon during the pandemic because one, they tripled their profits. But two, it's like they didn't really pass down those profits to their employees. From what I've seen, they pretty much pocketed it as a surplus of income. But at the same time, it's like you kept a lot of small businesses alive. So I had really conflicted feelings because, like, I think you're out in California, so Fry's Electronics gone. They couldn't make it through the pandemic. And Jordan, I don't think you've ever seen a Fry's Electronics because they're not really out here. I think Atlanta had one. Think like Sam's Club or Costco size, but all electronics and themed per store. You could have like an underwater theme, a space theme, a monster theme. They had all these crazy ones. I was lucky enough to visit like two or three, but it was just massive aisles and rows of computers and stuff. But they were not listing their products on Amazon, and because of that, and just the supply shortages that we had, they couldn't get their products faster. So people would just go buy their electronics somewhere else. So it's kind of been the downfall of local businesses. While it kept some afloat, so I have this really weird, just kind of odd feeling about Amazon. I'm not. I don't know how to say it. It's very mixed emotions for that company. But speaking of local businesses and just the way that PublicSq operates in the local sphere, what's the range, would you say, that a business gets exposed to local users in their area? Because I've been looking on there, and I sometimes get people up in Virginia, which is about 6 hours away, but the majority of them are focused like right here in Charlotte.
Yeah, you know, every marketplace is different. And this last week I was in Atlanta, Georgia, and then Houston, Texas, and both of them were a pleasant surprise. I got on the app thinking, you know, oh shoot, is there going to be a lot on here to show people when we get here? And I was like, wow, there's tons of businesses. This is amazing. You know, and again, I really hope it comes to the point where in the local community, there's a coffee shop in every neighborhood, right? You know, hopefully, if there is one, that's a more conservative take on things, that people will have an alternative from the coffee shop to, you know, CPA, all of it and in between in their local area. So we have a long ways to go, but yeah, it's going good.
Yeah, no, I think you mentioned in our like our pre-discussion that you guys got somebody that you probably weren't expecting to help build the online platform for PublicSq. Can you talk about any of that at all?
Yes, what I can say is we have had somebody pretty phenomenal in the tech space. And again, us being in tech, we're like the antithesis and the opposite of really what's normal for tech, for like Silicon Valley, right? Because Silicon Valley really is like these totally different values. We've met potential investors that are like, I've been pushed out of this and this, Airbnb and YouTube and Snapchat and this and that because I don't like the way they're going. And so we are like this little alien over here in the tech space, doing something a little different, being more values oriented, and we're not selling users data or the business's data. So even like as being a business, to go back to what you were saying before, being a business on PublicSq, it's different in every location, like how it's been for them. We've had some people say they've gotten so much business within the first few weeks of being on there that they're good for the next 6 months. Like no joke. I think that was a CPA that contacted us and said that, it's like, that's phenomenal. It was free advertising for him. We've had things like that. And then other industries might not, take as quick if people don't need, let's say, maybe a photographer as often, who knows? So each area is different. But I'm sorry, I kind of went back to finish explaining that first question you had asked, and you're talking about the technology side of it. We've had, someone pretty phenomenal come on our team who was over, again, it's just like the woke corporate stuff. And, he's in his office just doing what he's supposed to be doing on his product side, not needing to get political. Mm-hmm. And his organization was getting super political over it, and reached out to us and was like, I'm done. I don't want to be supporting this. I have children. I love America. This is antithetical to my values. And so I would love to be a part of something, and build something with an organization that's not going to push this crazy political agenda in the beginning of a product meeting, which, CNN doesn't need to be a part of it. Right? It doesn't need to be a part of your product meeting, believe it or not. And so we've had some really awesome people join our team that's going to be able to further this and really help us have a marketplace within the app that's going to be like, kind of like an Amazon or Target warehouse or anything like that from within the app. So pretty cool.
You said that you guys are not selling users data, right? Mm-hmm. And it's free to join for businesses.
Yes.
And it's free to join for users. So how is PublicSq making their money?
Good question. So you can go to our transparency page on the very front, and it clearly explains exactly how transparent we are about what we're doing. It shows our core values on there that every business that's verified checks off and adheres to before they get onto PublicSq. But no, we're not selling user data, which is, again, very different and antithetical to the Silicon Valley tech space.
So nobody does that right now.
I know. No, I know. We've had investors sit in our office and go, but this is not what tech does. They're like, well, this is what we do, and these are our values, and this is what we're going to stick to. So we got to do it a little different. And we do have some things, in the works that will be a financial benefit in the future, because it just feels like this is really endless. Mm-hmm. Like we can, with the restaurants that are on our app, start something with them where we're sending out their product, or an open table, or, Uber or Airbnb. We've got vacation rentals on there, right? So there's other things like that. Right now, what we're doing is an ad tier. So if you are a business on PublicSq, you can promote your business and be in like a promoted business section. And so far, so good. All the businesses have just loved it. We had a pro-life coffee bean company.
Yes, I heard of them.
Yes, so cute. 7 weeks.
I know.
So the size of a coffee bean is, and the name of it is 7 weeks coffee. That is the size you are 7 weeks in the womb.
Oh, that's such a cool name.
Yeah.
That's so clever, to be honest. I think that's clever.
Yeah. And they've blown up. I mean, it's gone really good for them. They basically covered their advertising costs, right away. They've gotten some. I mean, I found them on there. I had no idea who they were. And I'm like, yes, this is awesome. So of course I shipped it and bought it to my house, and it's actually good coffee. What do you know?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is like, I mean, I'll be very honest. I'm not going to buy a product just because it's conservative. Gonna be very honest. Where like I want the product to be good. Yeah, and I know that there are plenty of hidden conservatives out there that make incredible product that just can't make it out because of these other like corporations and others big chain stores. So it's good that it's an app that promotes that. And I do want to say as well, onto Connor's point about how you guys make your money, where like I think it's like it's good. Like there's absolutely nothing wrong with like making that money and making sure that you guys can keep your business afloat, because you guys are a business. You're not a charity.
No,
you guys are a business,
we're not.
and you
Yeah.
We're not you're looking to build and expand, and you can't do that for nothing. But
no, we're not a nonprofit. And when people ask us, gosh, we'd love to donate to what you're doing, how do we donate? The number one thing I'll say is you can go donate to us by go supporting a local business that loves freedom. That's it. Hands down. Go find your local business. And then it ends up being too, all these relationships. That's way more than just buying a cup of coffee or, buying a t-shirt from a boutique that, makes it there. Ends up being these people are like, wow, this company is so cool. Or I didn't know they exist. And that you really are like networking within your community and meeting some awesome people. So yeah, it's been really fun. And let me just mention, we've done the comparisons of other tech. I mean, there's nothing that's done exactly what we're doing, but the comparisons of other different tech that's similar to us. And the majority of them were around for like 4 years before they even went to a point where they were going to discuss revenue and actually start making a profit. So we're doing okay. We're ahead of the game so far. So it's a good thing.
Yeah, I can tell, because I mean, I think we actually had someone, I think they found us on PublicSq because of Timcast, apparently, where like it was like the next day I woke up and our manager was like, Jordan, we have these people like just started following us out of nowhere. I don't know what happened. And I was like, wait, what? And so now we have from PublicSq, we have a new article writer with us, and that's like connected us to community in a different way. So that was very exciting for us. And it was just like, whoa, you have those shared values. Because what was it C.S. Lewis said? Like the moment you become friends is like, oh, what, you believe that? Or oh, what, you do the same thing? Me too. And like that's how you make those friends. So that's so fun. I love it.
And you brought up a point too. We this was not our goal, but prime pandemic, we had some people reach out to us when we were just in San Diego and said, okay, I'm in the medical field. Majority of people in the medical field, I've been pushed out of my job because of the decisions I've personally made. So you have all these businesses on your app that don't discriminate. Like one of our core values is the right of the individual to take responsibility for their health choices. So these people came and said, gosh, how many of your businesses are hiring? Could you put a for hire business, a tab on there? So we reached out to the few hundred businesses that were on there at the time. And believe it or not, a ton of them were hiring. So overnight, we created a job board, put that on PublicSq. And that was like these amazing stories of people, like a dentist who was looking for a hygienist for like a year. And then, getting onto PublicSq and a hygienist with the similar values that was not going to force a mom to put a mask on her autistic kid or her child, whatever the parent's choice was. But it was huge for both the dentist and the hygienist to find somebody that's like-minded, that was going to respect the medical freedom of their community and their clients that were coming in. So that's just been like a fun side project that we've seen a lot of benefit from, is the job board.
It's so cool. And it's like at the same time, it's like I absolutely love what you guys are doing, but simultaneously, I'm kind of horrified that America has gotten to the point that this was absolutely necessary. Yeah. Because so many companies just went woke. I mean, I don't know how many of my friends dropped Gillette after their like anti-man campaigns, and I mean, it's like, but honestly, it was like we lost, we dropped that, and then we picked up some other razors. I think I've
that don't hate you.
Yeah, I've promoted. They don't say anything. They're not.
Yeah,
they're just razors.
They're just razors. What do you know?
Yeah, and you get to smell the razors, and I think actually me and a lot of my friends use the safety razors, and those are heck of a lot cheaper, by the way.
Yeah, I use them as well. Connor got me on new razors because at the end of the day, I think some people just don't want politics in their coffee. They don't want it in their food. They don't want it in their entertainment. They just want to enjoy life without always thinking about politics all the time. And I think that this what you guys have started here is a good way for that, where yes, they have to think about politics a little bit because they understand that they're going to an alternative source for shopping and stuff. But I'm hoping that it's something that's just they can honestly kind of breathe a little bit and be like, oh, this company doesn't hate me and I like their product and this is great.
Well, kind of to your point, Connor, I mean, saying that, so the businesses on our app, our first core value being America is, a country worth protecting. Like, we like America. That's crazy that's controversial.
Yeah, no, it is.
You're in America. And so like, yes and amen for a business that chooses to be in America and actually likes American values because they're a small business in America. Like, that is crazy that's controversial. So yes, jumping on the app, I guess it is a little bit of a political statement, and a controversial, but it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be to love America and to want to support America, our Constitution, our Bill of Rights. We think that those are essential. We're okay with a limited government. It's our third core value. We actually think that the government's there to protect and help the constituents and the small businesses, not the other way around, not be tyrannical over them, which is what we saw. Fourth one being the protection of the family unit, including the life of the unborn. That's a pretty big one. That's why we're at the past convention we were at. It was a pro-life convention. Judging people by the content of their character, not their skin color. That's another one that blows my mind that's controversial. Like, hold on. Have we gone back in time? Like what we were talking, that's pretty crazy. But a free market system is the other one that I hadn't mentioned, but we think that's actually a benefit and a great thing. America's pretty amazing because of its free market system and economy. So we're not trying to be crazy political with those things. Those seem, but it's kind of turned that way, I guess.
Yeah, you guys have come out, you've stated your values and the values that you want the companies who sign up with you to take part in. And that doesn't necessarily mean they will all be conservative companies. You could very easily get a liberal company that's just like, I want out of this political game. I think that's maybe what PublicSq is going to be represented as.
Totally. If they're willing to say that they're not going to, put their money into Planned Parenthood, BLM, any of the, anything that's antithetical to what we believe, then that's awesome. Maybe they're just a great ice cream shop. That's it. And that's what they do. They serve darn good ice cream, and that's it. That's great.
Yeah.
Just like all the businesses used to do before everything got political. So if anything, you guys are more, you're new, but it's more like the way things were before. It's like, we're just a business that makes good products. Here's our stuff. And there's no political strings attached to it.
Old school, just bringing it to an app and a platform, getting up in 2022.
Yeah, and the thing I like about it too, and not just to shower you guys with compliments, because there's stuff that you guys are working on and trying to help with the app, but but there is something different though, because it's PublicSq and you interact with people. Like when you have these like bigger corporations, or you have something like a Starbucks or a Target or something along those lines, it's really just about consuming. But I think with this, there is a potential for people to kind of retrain themselves and to really interact with the people that they are getting these goods from and actually build a connection with them, which doesn't happen in our culture very often because we're so dang busy. But it could potentially force people to kind of slow down a little bit and kind of just enjoy who they're with and not just see them as someone that can give them a product and then leave.
Yeah. No, totally. And kind of like what Connor's saying, that's like, we're going old school.
I feel like old school works though. Like, I don't think that what we're doing here in America is necessarily working. And by the way, Starbucks doesn't like have the best coffee.
No, they burn their coffee beans. It's really not that amazing,
Somebody.
Yeah.
right. So it's like,
the only one they don't burn is their blonde coffee, because you can't.
Yeah.
You literally cannot over roast those beans. But everything else is just bottom of the barrel picking of coffee beans, and they just burn all of it to make it taste the same.
And in general, sometimes that happens when companies get that big. There's just a different process, right? I've been to a coffee farmer's land in Honduras and watched them go through the beans and sift them and, take care of them. And it's just a different process when it's a small family owned organization versus a large corporation that's just, doing
because they've got to source beans from multiple places. So whether it's Peru, Colombia, or Nicaragua, it's going to taste different. So they don't want coffee in New York, to taste different than coffee in North Carolina and California. They want it all to taste the same, so they all just over roast it. Guys,
so don't go there.
You'll be amazed the flavors of coffee that are actually out there.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's insane. But I kind of want to switch gears a little bit and kind of talk a little bit more about you and just kind of, I guess, your journey, because you talked about that you were really connected with the public school. Because how many kids do you have again? Remind me.
I have 2 children, a 9-year-old and a 13-year-old that, yes, they were part of the public school system for a long time when I was able to be a part of the schools. And they are no longer there. Like many mamas, this is the reoccurring theme right now.
Well, I mean, I guess just kind of explain why and just talk about it a little bit, because I know there's a lot of moms that need to hear this, and even to a certain extent, a lot of people that want to be parents as well, to kind of get a good feel of the landscape of what's going on.
Oh, yeah, totally. I would say one of the biggest things, if you don't think it's happening in not my school district, not my director, not the teacher in my school, not the principal, not my city, my county, don't count it out, because there was a documentary that was put out by Rebecca Fredericks, Whose Children Are They? And the majority of the teachers that were interviewed were in Florida. So you can be like, oh, but in Florida, it's this free place. Yeah. Well, the indoctrination, the ideology that can come from a student teacher that just got out of whatever university, depending on whoever her professors and his professors were, then they're put in a classroom that can be in Montana, it can be in California. I was just in Texas this last week, and the residents where we were in Houston were telling us about this is not a school, but a church that was hosting a drag queen event in Texas. So don't think it's just
crazy.
Crazy. And they're all looking at me like, oh, you're from California. I'm like, okay, well, look what's actually there is, I got wind of there's a Boo Bash for Halloween happening in a school district in Encinitas, California. I'm pretty close to where I live. Where they're going to do the same thing, to have like a drag queen something. I mean, I called the principal, I emailed her multiple times to the point, and sent it to everybody I know, to the point where I think she shut off her phones because it wasn't taking anything anymore. But parents need to say something, because I'm like, I am so sorry. So it started off with my daughter, who's a feisty go-getter, always been willing to raise her hand, kind of like I was in school, and be different and say, hey, that might not be the truth, or that's one, theology, or one a myth, or one way of looking at it. And she was willing to kind of buck the system a little bit. But it kind of got to the point for her where she really felt like, Mom, I just don't even have any like-minded, students in my class. And it's like the cool thing to be vaccinated. And, I'm like, these are the conversations they're having in the classroom. I mean, and even it was in maybe 5th grade.
How old is she again?
She just turned 13. This was, I think, 2 years ago. There was a student that was going around saying, oh, have you watched porn? If you haven't, you should come back to school and tell us, like, what you think. And I'm like driving in the car with her. I'm like, okay, so what, she's like, ew, Mom, I would never. I'm like, okay, good job, Mom.
Yeah.
But once COVID hit, and I, as a parent, was not allowed to be a part of the classroom, parents were not allowed to even know what's really going on at all. I went from being super active in the schools to, all of the parents were pretty much shut out. And it did 2 things. One, it really showed parents, when they got to do these Zoom calls in the classroom, like what's going on in the classroom if they weren't aware. And too, it also, I mean, it just made the mama bears come out that have never been political. So many moms I know, like, oh, I'd never voted, or I did, or I was super liberal, or whatever it may be. But as soon as you're going to go do these mandates and say these things to kids, or have this indoctrination or agenda on like our children, like it's the moms that have stepped up in this last season to really be like, heck no. I mean, it's our prime user on PublicSq. Like the people that will drive the extra 5 miles and spend the extra $5 is a mama bear, because they're like, don't, this goes way deeper than just like my love for America. Like I have another generation. I have these children that I want to raise in this country, and I love this, and I'm not okay with these values that you're pushing down, down my children. So I have story after story I could tell you of stuff that's going on in the school system. But that
one
was
thing I did want to. So I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm so sorry.
No, you're good.
One of the things I wanted to kind of push you on is, if I were someone who was, I guess, say I'm more liberal or just a bit more left leaning, I'd be like, okay, but what exactly were they telling your kids? Like what was it that you were hearing them say? Like, what would you tell them?
Yeah, I'm actually friends with some amazing, rather liberal mamas from my kids' school. One of which, she showed up one morning, we're doing drop off just with tears in her eyes. And she goes, she's like, did you hear the news? And no, again, because I don't ever watch the news. I'm like, no, what happened now? And like literally with tears in her eyes, like, I can't believe Biden would enforce this vaccine, like on all these corporations, anyone that has 100 employees or more. And I'm like, oh yeah. No, wasn't that big of a surprise to me. But just to see her heartbreak of like, oh my gosh, like I thought, my party was, you could just see where people's eyes are being open to, what's going on. But in my son's particular school, he had a phenomenal teacher. And what I saw is, and we've seen this time and time again, it really comes down to money. People have chosen to basically put their values aside for a certain amount of cost, which is why I think it's huge that our founder and our CEO is just a phenomenal human being who is high integrity, because I know that that's, like not going to sway him. But my kids' school was built to be like the homeschool version, but a charter school in public school. Mm-hmm. So the director, she homeschooled her children. Her children were never vaccinated, not once. Right. And so these were the values of like her starting this school, her and somebody else. And then I'm noticing, gosh, why is she being such a stickler over these, these masks? Why is she, there's children in the school that were, it doesn't, in my opinion, doesn't matter if you're autistic or not, or wear glasses or not. It really should be the child's choice and the parent's choice, right? Like what's putting on someone's face. But these kids that really just needed to be, send them to the library, do something alternative, something, but why are you being such a stickler about this? And to make a long story short, it goes back to the money. Sure enough, she had taken government funds basically to keep these kids masked up. And I'm like, gosh, that's so sad to me, because I know that is not, like, that would not have been her initial intent. You know what I mean? Like, so to go down that slippery slope of, when you just compromise in one area, or, oh, but my school needs this money, so I should, and so it got to the point where, and I have these text messages where there were literal texts being sent out to parents of first, second, third graders. These kids want to go to school. They're not dealing drugs. They're not verbally abusive. They're not fighting in school. They just want to learn their darn ABCs and and learn math and be with their peers. But these kids, the parents were being told, you need to pick your child up. Text back, if my students in harm, like, please take them to the hospital. You need to pick them up by 9:30. What's going on? I'm not home. I'm at work. Then the next one, if you don't pick your student up by, whatever time it was, I'm dropping them off at your home alone. I mean,
can they do that? Like,
no, and it's even against and it was even against the directors, like not her bylaws, but whatever the regulations and the rules that we all signed as parents literally say you will not put the child in a car without the parent permission and a signature. And so I'm like, you actually can't do that. But in my mind, I don't care if that's an empty threat or not. You do not threaten that stuff. Another one was threatening to call CPS, like in the office with a parent and multiple students there. Oh yeah, if your parent doesn't come, I'm going to call CPS. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, you know, people are just cracking under all this stress. But then to come to find out, you know, it actually went a little bit deeper than that, but a lot of it, again, goes back to power and money and, you know, and I did give it a lot of grace for a while in the sense that, hey, I'm sure you people coming at you from all sides, parents that are stressed over masks, parents that are stressed over not masks, you know, I understand that. I totally do. But the way it was handled was so wild. And then it just kept happening. And so then I'm like, well, how many times do you just be like, oh, well, you're just, you know, you're just stressed. I'm like, no, you're just making actually a really bad decision of a direct, like you should not be directing children in an elementary school if this is really where you're at and what you're saying to kids. So that's kind of when I ended up pulling my son and exposed that on the news and with social media and all that kind of fun stuff. But you know, I'm not really one to do that. And all my social media is actually private. I'm not really exciting in the social media world. But if you're going to ask me a question and when the news showed up that day to ask, I'm going to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm not going to sit here and lie about it and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Is it like my joy and honor just to go around and like, ha, ha, ha? No, but I'm going to be honest. And this is what's happening and is absolutely not okay. You know, so, but I've always been like that. I've been willing to stand up for if someone's getting bullied.
Not on my watch. I mean, when it comes to kids, I mean, it's just kind of a different story. And I think what you said with the, you know, oh, it turns out this director was getting money to keep these kids masked. It's almost kind of like this, not to you, but to people who are like, masks, the government's just enforcing masks because they want to protect us. These places are just enforcing because they want to protect us. And I say, they're like, it's not political at all. And I'm like, you would be naive to think that there wasn't any sort of political motive in this whatsoever. And so when I hear a story like this, it's like, it makes me so mad because these kids are, one, they have these masks on their face and they can't see each other's faces. They have and they're like in what, first grade? Like, so they have snot all in their.
It's so sad. Yeah.
It's horrible. And they just can't develop properly. I remember there was points I was looking at articles like a couple years after the pandemic that a lot of developmental skills were being slowed down. And if you remember at one point, I think there was a certain website, I think it might have been the CDC, that changed their developmental guidelines.
They did.
Because there was a developmental slowdown because they can't develop motor skills if you can't see people's faces, which seems like, again, everything that I feel like this entire conversation is like common sense. It's just common sense where it's like, to me, like PublicSq isn't political to me. It's like, hey, I don't care if there's a liberal coffee shop on this platform. If they want to serve me good coffee and not hate me, fine by me. And in fact, I actually think it's good to have conversation with people who believe differently than you. So that's another way to interact in the public square.
Totally.
We just don't get a chance to do that because we're so polarized, and we spend so much time online. We don't really know how to talk to people anymore. And I know Connor and I, we get kind of upset about it because we just want to talk, like, just let us talk to you, and then it'll probably be okay and we probably won't hate each other at the end of the day.
Oh yeah, there's so many people. If you really just have sorry, I'm trying to like keep the light out of my face. I keep moving. I didn't realize the sun's coming around here. There's so many people that if you were to have a conversation, and we could be polar opposites, on a political spectrum, but we probably have similar goals. Like, I would hope that most people are actually like kind-hearted people, and truly want to do whatever they feel is like best for their kids or best for their family. There's a lot of crazies now too, but in general, it should be something where you can civilly sit at a dinner table and talk and have a conversation with people. And again, old school, that's how it was. You were able to sit and have these conversations and actually learn from each other, learn at your dinner table and learn at your local public square about what's going on and what's to do best for your community. So yeah, we hope that the community feature is able to do that and people are able to engage. Again, we're primarily a marketplace, and we don't want to be a super social media where people are just on their phones the whole time. Like, that's not the goal. Like, go vote with your wallet, spend your money differently, support an awesome local business, and hopefully if you do need to connect with people locally, you're able to do that, but not trying to be too much of a social media platform per se. We do think in person is the best. That's why you go meet those companies, but
yeah, I don't think there's not a follow feature or a friend feature, right? Yeah,
no,
not from what I had seen. I just wasn't sure if I was missing it or not. But I mean, yeah, I don't think you can follow.
Yeah, no, you can save businesses if you want to be able to, let's say there's a few businesses that are your favorites and you want to be able to share them or find them easily. You can save them in there. And again, things will be updated and changed, weekly. But we aren't trying to distract from the fact that real life community is really where it's at. So maybe eventually we'll have features where you can actually chat with those businesses and integrate the community feature with the businesses in some portion and have a business portal too as well. Again, there's tons of ideas. It just takes time to build all of this stuff. But keeping it to your local community and real, and just hopefully being the connection point for you to meet these businesses is the main goal.
Yep.
No, that's really neat. I know Jordan and I have definitely been talking to a lot of people about PublicSq, any conservative businesses. The gentleman that was on a couple episodes ago, Gil Allred, we talked to him because he runs a concealed carry course on the weekends, and then he has like advanced shooting classes. And I was like, I know you're just pretty much on Facebook, and he was able to finagle his way through Facebook's rules because Facebook doesn't allow the selling of firearms, and he's like, I'm not selling them, I'm training them. So that's primarily where he does his business. But we're like, dude, you should definitely be on PublicSq. Like, as of right now, I don't think there's actually another concealed carry business on in our area. There might be one, but I think that might have been an advertisement from another state. But either way, it was like, I just, anywhere I'm going and talking with people, if I know that they have, they just, either want to have like no politics attached, or they have conservative values and they want to try and bring in that customer base. Like, you guys need to be on this platform.
Well,
there's not a negative side.
Thank you for doing that. One, it's free for them to get on. So it's like free marketing, right? It's not going to, I mean, they're potentially going to find more customers and hopefully some, awesome like-minded people that want to support them. But it doesn't cost anything to be on. And truly, if you want this to grow in your local neighborhood, that's how you do it. Because I don't know the coffee shops that stayed open through the pandemic. I don't know the landscaper that loves America. I don't know, the local boot store that is veteran run. Your local community. We don't. So we made it as simple as we could on the app. Before you even log in, you don't even have to have a profile. You can go to PublicSq.com, and you can watch a video, and right under the video, there's a blue button that says add your business for free. So you can go on there that quick to add a business. Once you're in the app, there's also a section where you can refer a business. If you know a business would want to be a part of it, but let's say the owner's gone or you don't know how to reach them right now, you can refer a business. So there's two types of businesses on the app, the referred ones and the verified ones. Obviously, the verified ones we love because we know they're the ones choosing to be on this app. And so at the moment, we're probably having about 100 businesses a day join the app. And so the whole referred businesses, they're kind of like sitting at the wayside because we don't even have time to get them on because we're just onboarding all the businesses that are being verified right now. But it's still a nice feature to have. Eventually, we'll be able to go through slowly all those, and we are going through the referred ones and contacting them and saying, hey, does this align with you? Would you want to be on this? And so far, it's been amazing feedback. And a lot of these recommended businesses have been phenomenal. Like, we stopped by a steakhouse while we were in Atlanta called Bones, and they were just a referred business on the app. And we go in, and it's like exactly what you want to hear. The people that worked there had worked for this business for years. They like wore little star badges of like honor to be like, yes, I've loved working for this restaurant. I've worked for this family for X amount of years. And there's an American flag up there. And then they said, oh, they take such great care of us. We have full benefits and healthcare and this and that. And so we look up the owners, and sure enough, there's an article written about them, and they have maybe 3 or 4 businesses in the area. And I'm going to get it wrong, but they said something about if if loving freedom is wrong, then we would rather just let our business go under. Like this is, like we love our community and we love freedom and we love America. And so this is our values and this is what we're standing up for. And we're like, yes, that's awesome. Of course they're going to want to be on this app. So it's been cool to get those referred businesses on there.
What's the verification process like for a business? Like, how do you guys make sure that you're not getting a bunch of either, botted accounts or botted requests or fake businesses?
Yeah, well, we do have people in our office that go through and verify the businesses. So there could potentially be someone who's not like-minded who goes in and creates an account and wants to have a business on there just to get free marketing. We haven't really had that, I guess, maybe because they would be. There tends to be people that are on like the very loud liberal side. Like we got one email from a lady that was like, oh yeah, now that I know these businesses, I'm never going to step foot in them again. We're like, they're probably okay with you not stepping in foot.
Yeah.
Like, she's angry. So angry over it.
It's your choice. You're free to do that.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
Okay. And that was after we had an article written about us because we had the job board in our local newspaper. But in general, those businesses go on there. They're going to adhere by those 7 core values, and at least let us know they're not donating antithetical to these values, right? We're not asking them to show us their financial statements of who they're donating to, but they're the ones saying that they want to. And in general, I don't see why you would probably want to be on there if you weren't, because now you're kind of like helping your.
You're kind of inviting people that you don't
right.
like.
Yeah. And so, which again, in general, the more conservative world of people are like, go for it. Come to my business. I don't care what, intersectional politics or go for it. Like, I want to be a great, landscaper, and I'd love to help you with your backyard. But not everybody thinks that way. It tends to be the people on this side of, things that agree with those values. But so they adhere to those 7 core values. They can put up their photos. They can add something to their listing, letting us know a little bit about them if they want to. They can even offer a discount to PublicSq members. So sometimes you don't have to, but it's kind of a fun thing just to say, hey, free or 10% off or a free coffee when you purchase another coffee. And so that kind of builds a rapport with their customers too, to be like, oh, awesome. I get to go in here and try a new place, and they're also going to give me a free coffee or 10% off, So they do that. And then on our end, we go through and verify to the best of our ability to who the business is and, the owner and what they stand for. And if we see in the very beginning, for instance, I had one business phenomenal person, but went on his Instagram and saw that there was like, the black square. And this is before we were even live anywhere. It was just a conversation I was having with this business owner. And again, being able to have a civil conversation, I just asked him like, hey, do you know what that means? Do you know what BLM stands for? Do you know who they support? And like, he was actually super surprised. He's like, oh, well, everyone was just doing that. And I don't, and sure enough, it was like eye-opening to him to see like, gosh, I had no idea. Thanks for having a conversation. So it's not like we're sitting here on people are leaving cancel culture over here, just saying, oh, well, you said you have this, so we're just, you're not on the app. It's more so, well, can we have a conversation? There was one lady, we had a conversation. Again, this is before the app was even live, just about our pro-life stance. And I just let her know, I said, well, honestly, there's just so many corporations that donate to Planned Parenthood. Do you know anything about Planned Parenthood? And it took us down like an hour-long conversation about who they support, like where they started, Margaret Sanger, like who she is, like, where these neighborhoods were that they started these Planned Parenthoods. And she was appalled. And again, if I would have just been like, oh, well, you're just not pro-life like me, and stuck her in some box, we would have never had this conversation. For her to actually know really the values of what Planned Parenthood does, and who they are. So it is fun, I think, actually, to get to be a part of that and get to talk to businesses and share a little bit about why we're doing what we're doing and what we believe.
I think you'll change a lot more hearts and minds that way than just being loud and proud on its own.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we found that doesn't tend to work super well for either side, unfortunately. But it seems like what you guys are doing is different. And it's growing, and I think it's a little bit exciting for these businesses because they kind of get to grow with you to a certain extent. Say that they were kind of there in the beginning. Actually, before we started the podcast, I was telling you that like that verification process Connor was talking about, like I went through and did all of that for my business that I have that is not Resident Skeptics, obviously, but something else that I do on my own. And so that was just kind of exciting, be like, wow, I can't wait to have customers that have like-minded values. And, that's just really exciting. But we're just so appreciative that you've come and that you've explained this to us and talked to us even just about your own experiences and good old California and other places across the country.
Yeah. Well, I actually can say to the education point, I'm actually like a testimony and a success story of PublicSq, because then I pulled my kids out, right? And it's like, well, shoot, where am I going to go? What am I going to do? I don't even want to send my kids to our local private Christian school. The stuff that was going on there, I mean, it was wild. That's a whole nother podcast episode. And so it's like, gosh, I'm working, but how am I going to homeschool my children? And on PublicSq, there was this like a homeschool pod, where they meet in person, once, twice a week, and then they do their schoolwork at home. So there's some community aspect, but they are homeschooled. And so I got a discount. I actually got a discount to sign up my kids because she had it was like free registration and, whatever percent off the classes, Willow Ridge Academy. So I'm super grateful for PublicSq. It helped me in my schooling out for my children. So
how's that process been, that transition? Because you said they weren't homeschooled previously, right? This was the first time.
No. Super difficult. Super difficult. I'm not going to say that that's an easy thing to do, to work full time and then to homeschool kids. But what I can say is I work for an amazing company that when I came to them and said, hey, when we started this, I had 2 kids in full-time school. I now have 2 homeschool kids. Like, something has to give. There was so much grace. I mean, like, talk about our core values of the nuclear family unit and really caring about families. Is I was received with nothing but great encouragement. Like, hey, family first, do what you need to do. I mean, when I pulled my son out, it was pretty soon and it was pretty drastic. And he came to the office with me for a while. I mean, he was literally like reading SpongeBob or whatever it was, things like while I'm in my office working. But there was the grace to do that because they really do value family. I mean, it's really put in the test of the fire to see what they're going to do with me. And it was like, hey, you got to take care of your family first. So I would give parents just the encouragement that what's best for your kids and what's best for your family. And like, there'll be the grace to get it done. The whole last semester of last year for my son, it was unschooling. Like, we didn't really do much school, but he just needed like some peace and we just needed to like recover. And guess what? He'll be okay. He's going to learn how to read and write, and he's going to know all his math eventually. So he's probably actually doing better than what was going on in the schools, with the way that they're changing up all the regulations and all the testing, and everything's so low, the bar's so low now that I think they'll be A-okay.
Yeah. So it sounds like they've taken well to the change in learning environment.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. No, they love it.
Yeah, that's good to hear. I think, Jordan, you were homeschooled, right? To some extent.
So yeah, no, I was homeschooled pretty much all the way through, except when I started doing dual enrollment. When I was like 15, I went to community college. But when I moved to North Carolina when I was 11 years old, and I think there was like almost a year where we did not do a ton of school. which it was kind of like the same as you with your
Making me
son,
feel
where it's
better.
like, but here's what happened. So my mom was kind of concerned, and so she ended up doing standardized testing for us, and we were above average, and we were fine. And it's really, in the long run, it's not going to be a super huge deal. So if it makes you feel better, I turned out great because I'm obviously doing this podcast and I'm talking with you. I have Connor as a friend, so everything's great.
Intellectual conversation too.
Yes, that's the kind of conversations that we like to have. But Connor, is there any other questions that we want to ask Christina while we have her?
I would love to get her back on another time to talk about more of the school stuff, because that's a pretty abrupt ending to the school. I think you're right. It's definitely a separate podcast, but would love to talk with you and maybe some other parents about what happens between.
Yeah, it is really eye-opening, all the stuff that's happening in schools. I mean, like, so many stories I could bring parents into for sure that have some pretty crazy stories. And it's just wild to think like, oh, but not my kids or not my class or not my school. And sure enough, it's happening everywhere. So that whole saying of like, so goes California, so goes the country.
Yeah.
I really feel like it's true. Like I've had, no judgment to the people that have left California. I've had a lot of friends like need to leave for different reasons, and whatever the reason, that's great. But if somebody doesn't stay here and fight for this place and these like crazy woke politics that are happening here to like try to stop it here, like I just said, it's happening in Houston, Texas. It's happening in Ohio. I knew somebody that moved and then they went, shoot, now they're doing the masks over here. It's like, well, hope that just wasn't your only reason to leave, So yeah, it's kind of crazy times.
Yeah, no, crazy times. And I think PublicSq has been a fantastic answer to some of those times. Christina, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a blast getting to talk to you. Jordan, did you have anything else or?
Nope. Just want to make sure that for our audience that you can find her information, or more importantly, PublicSq's information. I imagine is what you'll want to have in the description, Christina. But we will put our that information in our descriptions, and you should join. I mean, I don't think even if you're moderate, liberal, you should join. I don't know. I think it's a good idea. So, Christina, thank you so much, and I think that is it for us. That's all I got.
Yeah. Really looking forward to what else is coming.
Thank you, Jordan. Such a blessing to get to be a part of this.
Thank you for coming on.